The screaming started at noon. Seoul's downtown district erupted into chaos as massive figures materialized through tears, in reality crude portals that stank of oil and rust and something wrong. Green-skinned monsters 8 feet tall and built like industrial machinery poured into the streets with guttural war cries that shook windows and set off every car alarm in a 3-block radius. Wag! Dozens at first, then hundreds spilling from multiple tears, a green tide flooding 3 city blocks in under a minute. The sound was primal, joyous, hungry. They swung axes the size of refrigerators and fired guns that looked like they'd been assembled from scrapyard debris. Crude slugs tore through storefronts. A bus exploded, flipping end over end. Bodies, too many bodies, littered the pavement. One of the creatures bigger than the rest and wrapped in plates of rusted iron raised a cleaver dripping with blood. Its tusked mouth split wide in something between a laugh and a roar. Then the shadows came alive. The nearest orc's head separated from its shoulders before it registered movement. The body stood for a moment confused before collapsing in a spray of green ichor. Sung Jinwoo stood where the creature had been, twin daggers materializing in his hands. Antares' fangs, a pair of blades forged from the fangs of Antares, the dragon monarch and monarch of destruction. Their curved edges gleamed dark purple, seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. The hilts were shaped like dragon heads, black with gold accents that pulsed faintly. His eyes glowed violet. The orcs turned toward him, as one momentarily forgetting the fleeing civilians. Jinwoo didn't give them time to think. He moved. The daggers flashed. An orc's throat opened. 3 more strikes, chest, abdomen, skull, before the body hit the ground. Jinwoo spun both blades, carving through another orc's defenses. The weapons moved like extensions of his will, each strike precise and fatal. More orcs charged. Jinwoo didn't slow. A massive greenskin swung a chain axe. Jinwoo ducked under the blow, drove both daggers up through its jaw, and kicked the corpse backward into 2 more orcs. Before they could recover, he was already moving a blur of purple light and shadow, the fangs leaving trails of darkness in the air. Green blood pooled on the asphalt. The orcs' war cries grew louder. Then the real army arrived. Shadow erupted from Jinwoo's feet like a black tidal wave, spreading across the street in defiance of natural light. From within that darkness, figures emerged. Bellion rose, first the Grand Marshal of the Shadow Legion. His form towered over even the largest orc's wings of layered shadow blades, unfurling like some terrible angel. His voice resonated with absolute authority. "The Master's command shall be reality." Baru manifested beside him with a chittering laugh, his ant-like form bristling with predatory hunger. Mandibles clicked with anticipation. "My liege, grant this humble servant permission to devour these insects." Igris appeared in silence, the blood-red commander clad in crimson armor with a blade that had ended kingdoms. He said nothing. He didn't need to. His presence spoke. Tank crashed into being with enough force to crack the pavement, a massive shadow bear, wrapped in dark armor, roaring a challenge that made the orcs pause for the first time. Above them, Kaisel's serpentine form coiled through the air, the shadow wyvern's wings blotting out the sun as it circled the battlefield. Behind them, thousands more. An army of darkness, each soldier a warrior Jinwoo had claimed from death itself. The orcs stared for perhaps 2 seconds. Then they charged with renewed fury, screaming their joy at finally finding a real fight. Bellion's shadow blade carved through 3 orcs in a single sweep. Baru leaped onto a larger specimen, mandibles tearing through crude armor like tissue paper. Igris moved like red lightning, his sword finding gaps in defenses that shouldn't exist. Tank simply bulldozed forward, crushing everything in his path. Kaisel dove from above, shadow fire washing over a cluster of orcs, their screams cutting off as darkness consumed them. Jinwoo walked through the carnage, and Tara's fangs dancing in his hands. The twin blades blurred, parrying a crude axe, then opening the wielder's throat in the same motion. An orc with a massive cleaver charged him. Jinwoo sidestepped both daggers, finding joints simultaneously. The creature dropped mid-stride. The battle was over in minutes. Jinwoo stood among the corpses, purple eyes surveying the destruction. Behind him, Bellion and the others waited in perfect formation. The street was quiet now, save for distant sirens and the crackle of flames. He sheathed one dagger, knelt beside one of the orc corpses, and placed his free hand on its chest. Shadow extraction. Darkness poured from Jinwoo's palm, sinking into the dead flesh. The corpse convulsed. Then it rose, still green-skinned, still wearing its crude armor, still gripping its weapons. But its eyes now burned with violet light. The shadow orc opened its mouth. For a moment, the battlefield echoed with that same primal cry, "Wah!" Then silence. The creature's eyes dimmed to a dull glow, head bowing toward Jinwoo in absolute obedience. Jinwoo stood studying his new soldier with narrowed eyes. He raised his hand. Across the street, more orc corpses began to rise, 24 shadows now, each awaiting his command. They're different. The thought came unbidden. These aren't like dungeon monsters. The energy signature, it doesn't match anything from this world. He turned toward the source, a tear in reality still hanging in the air 3 blocks away, pulsing with that same wrong energy. Not mana, not anything he recognized, a portal. But to where Jinwoo closed his eyes for just a moment, the dragon monarch's roar, Antares falling, the cup of reincarnation shattering in his hands, time flowing backward, rewriting history. His mother's eyes opening after 10 years of sleep. Gina's laugh at breakfast that morning, so normal it hurt. The price he'd paid for that peace. His eyes opened, violet light intensifying. I thought it was over. I thought the gates were closed forever. He looked at the tear in reality, at the shadow orcs standing silent behind him, at the city he'd sworn to protect. But if they came from somewhere else, if there's a source. His grip tightened on Antares' fangs. Then I ended, at the root. No more threats, no more wondering if tomorrow brings another war. Bellion. The Grand Marshal stepped forward. My lord, we're going in. If this leads to wherever these creatures came from, we burn it to ash. He gestured to the waiting shadows. Bring Beru Igris tank and iron. The rest hold this position in case more come through. As you command. Jinwoo walked toward the portal, his chosen commanders falling into formation behind him. The twin Antares fangs gleamed in his hands, their dark purple glow cutting through the afternoon light. He stepped into the tier. The transition hit like a physical blow, not the gentle displacement of crossing through a dungeon gate, but a violent tearing sensation. Reality folded in on itself. Space became meaningless. Up was down was sideways was through. For one infinite moment, Jinwoo existed in the space between dimensions, catching fractured glimpses of other realities layered over each other like broken glass. Then, gravity reasserted itself with crushing force. Solid ground. Jinwoo stumbled forward, Bellion steadying him with one massive hand. The Grand Marshal's wings flared, already assessing threats. The air tasted wrong, rust and decay and something acrid that coated the back of his throat. Ash fell like snow-gray flakes drifting through a sky the color of old blood. No sun visible through the perpetual murk, just that sickly red-brown haze stretching to every horizon. The ground beneath his feet was cracked earth covered in industrial debris. In the distance, crude fortifications rose, metal walls cobbled together from scrap flying flags of green and black. Smoke pillars climbed from countless fires. This isn't a dungeon. The realization was immediate, certain. Dungeons had boundaries, walls, ceilings. This is a world, a different world entirely. Then he heard it. Engines, rough, uneven, alive-sounding engines. Drums pounding out rhythms, more violence than music. Gunfire, not the sharp crack of modern weapons, but something cruder, louder, wronger. And over it all, that unified battle cry, "Wah!" But this time the orcs weren't alone. Jinwoo's eyes adjusted to the gloom tracking movement across the wasteland. There, a battle line. On one side, the green tide. On the other, humans. Hundreds of them clad in heavy armor the color of storm clouds, helmets obscuring their faces. They fired weapons that spat beams of crimson light, lass fire, cutting down orcs with mechanical precision. Behind them, massive vehicles rolled forward, tanks bristling with cannons that roared like thunder. A coordinated army, professional, disciplined, fighting an endless swarm of orcs in a war that looked like it had been raging for years. One of the armored humans, an officer by his peaked cap and the gold braid on his coat, turned his head. His eyes, visible through a gap in his helmet, locked onto Jinwoo and the shadows behind him. For one frozen moment, everything was silent. Then the officer's voice cut across the battlefield, amplified by some unseen technology. "Xenos unknown hostile. All units open fire." 1,000 laser beams turned toward Jinwoo as one. He didn't move. Ontra's fangs hung ready in his hands, purple light cutting through the gloom. Behind him, Bellion's wings spread wide, casting shadows across the ash-covered earth. Baru chittered with anticipation. Egress's blade hummed. Tank growled. Sung Jinwoo, the Shadow Monarch, stood between two armies in a world not his own and smiled. The lasbolts came like crimson rain. Hundreds of beams converged on Jinwoo's position, searing the ash-choked air. The guardsmen fired with mechanical precision, their lace guns trained on the unknown threat that had appeared in the middle of their war zone. Jinwoo didn't move. Bellion's wings swept forward, layered shadow blades forming a barrier. The las fire splashed against the darkness, dissipating harmlessly. Behind the Grand Marshal, Baru chittered with barely contained fury, mandibles clicking. "My liege, they dare. Stand down!" Jinwoo's voice cut through the chaos, cold and absolute. His eyes tracked the firing line, hundreds of soldiers in gray armor, their faces hidden behind rebreather masks. Behind them, officers shouted orders through Vox amplifiers. Further back, massive tanks adjusted their turrets toward his position. "They're human." He studied the battlefield with the same calculating precision that had let him survive the worst dungeons Earth had ever spawned. Two armies, orcs, the same creatures that had torn through Seoul, swarming from crude fortifications to the north. And opposing them, an organized human military force fighting with desperate discipline. These people weren't his enemy. They were victims of the same threat. "Bellion." "My lord, new orders. Engage the orcs only. Avoid casualties among the humans." Jinwoo's grip tightened on Antares' fangs, purple light intensifying around the twin blades. "We're here to end the greenskin threat, nothing more." Baru's protest came immediately. "But my lord, they fire upon you. I said avoid them." Jinwoo's eyes glowed brighter. "That's an order." The Ant King fell silent, mandibles snapping shut. After a moment, he bowed. "As you command." Shadow erupted from Jinwoo's feet like a tsunami of darkness racing across the ash-covered earth toward the orc lines. The greenskins, seeing movement, roared their approval and surged forward to meet what they assumed was a new challenger. They died before they understood their mistake. Bellion moved first, his massive form a blur of shadow and steel. The Grand Marshal's blade, longer than a man, was tall, carved through the first rank of orcs in a single devastating sweep. 3 greenskins fell bisected at the waist before their war cries could finish. Baru followed with predatory glee, leaping onto a massive orc knob. His mandibles found the gap in the creature's crude armor, tearing through flesh and bone. "Insects. All of you, nothing but insects before my lord's power." Egress materialized from shadow like a crimson phantom, his blade already in motion. An orc raised its cleaver to block the weapon, shattered, and Egress's sword continued through armor, ribs, and spine without slowing. The blood-red commander moved to his next target before the body hit the ground. Tank crashed into the orc line like a living battering ram. The Shadow Bear's roar shook the earth as he barreled through a cluster of greenskins, crushing armor and bone beneath his massive paws. Above it all, Kaisel circled the Shadow Wyvern's serpentine form, blotting out what little light penetrated the ash-choked sky. and through the carnage, Jinwoo walked. What in the Emperor's name is that Sergeant Hendricks of the 117th Cadian Regiment watched through his magnoculars, his hands shaking despite 40 years of military discipline. The unknown Xanos moved through the orc horde like death-incarnate twin purple daggers flashing in patterns too fast to follow. An orc boy charged the figure. The Xanos sidestepped, barely seemed to move at all, and both daggers found the creature's throat and heart simultaneously. The orc collapsed. Another took its place. Same result. Then another and another. "He's not even slowing down," Hendricks whispered. Beside him, Commissar Volk observed with cold calculation. "The Xanos fights with purpose, discipline, not the mindless fury of orcs." He adjusted his peaked cap. "And observe, it avoids our lines entirely. Targets only the greenskins." Could it be an ally? There are no allies in this galaxy, Sergeant. Only the Imperium and those who will be purged. Volk's hand rested on his bolt pistol. But for now, it serves our purposes. Continue observation. Jinwoo pivoted Antares' fangs, blurring as he deflected a crude axe, then opened the wielder's chest in a single fluid motion. Green blood sprayed across the ash. Before it hit the ground, he was already moving a flicker of shadow. Shadow exchange carrying him across 10 meters in an instant. He appeared behind a cluster of orcs firing their crude sluggas at the Imperial line. They died without seeing him, throats opened before their fingers left the triggers. More efficient this way, Jinwoo thought, scanning for the next threat. End them fast, no unnecessary suffering. Another wave of orcs charged. Jinwoo raised one hand. Shadow extraction. Darkness poured from his palm into the nearest corpse. The dead orc convulsed, shadows flowing into its wounds, filling the empty spaces where life had been. Then it rose, eyes burning violet, crude weapons still gripped in massive hands. The shadow orc turned toward its living kin and charged. Jinwoo repeated the process. 2 more. 5. 10. Within minutes, 24 shadow orcs formed a vanguard, their presence causing visible confusion in the greenskin ranks. Orcs understood death. They didn't understand their dead brothers rising to fight against them. From the Imperial line, someone screamed, "Throne of Terra! He's raising them!" Trooper Markov stumbled backward, nearly dropping his laser gun. Across the battlefield, the dead orcs were standing up. Moving, fighting. Commanded by the unknown Xenos with the purple blades. Necromancy, breathed Corporal Chen, his face pale beneath his helmet. He's a damn necromancer. The Vox crackled. Commissar Volk's voice cut through their panic. All units hold the line. The Xenos engages our mutual enemy. Do not fire unless it turns hostile. But sir, those are your orders, Trooper. Markov swallowed hard, watching shadows pour across the battlefield like living smoke. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. You didn't raise the dead. You didn't command darkness like that. Not without making pacts with powers that damned your soul. What kind of monster have we just witnessed? The screaming came from the north. Jinwoo's head snapped toward the soundless guns firing on full auto, the distinctive crunch of orc weapons tearing through armor. A break in the Imperial line. He could see them through the smoke, 8 guardsmen pinned in a crater surrounded by at least 20 orcs. One of the humans, an officer by his cap, lay dead, half his torso gone from a crude axe blow. The remaining soldiers fixed bayonets. Preparing for a final stand, they wouldn't survive. Jinwoo moved. Shadow exchange carried him across the battlefield in 3 rapid jumps. He materialized in the center of the crater, Antares' fangs already in motion. The nearest orc's head separated from its shoulders. A second pivot. Both daggers found another orc's chest and throat. A third died before it could turn. Bellion. The Grand Marshal's form blurred across the distant shadow blade, sweeping in a horizontal arc that bisected 4 orcs simultaneously. The remaining greenskins broke, scrambling back from the two figures of death that had appeared in their midst. Jinwoo didn't pursue. He turned to the guardsmen. They stared at him with expressions caught between terror and confusion. Their laser guns were raised but shaking fingers hovering near triggers. One of them, a sergeant by his chevron, stood frozen mouth, working soundlessly. Jinwoo met the man's eyes. His voice when he spoke was flat, commanding, "Stay down." Then he turned away, leaving them behind as he moved to the next threat. Sergeant Hendricks, a different. Hendricks, this one, 20 years younger than the observer with the magnoculars, watched the Xenos walk away with numb disbelief. "It saved us." Around him, his squad remained in their crater weapons still raised. Private Goto was hyperventilating. Corporal Vex whispered prayers to the Emperor. Hendricks himself felt like he'd just stared into the void and seen something stare back. The Xanos had appeared from nowhere. No sound, no warning, just suddenly there those purple daggers moving with impossible speed. It had killed 6 orcs in under 4 seconds, then left without a word. And now the dead orcs were standing up, rising with glowing eyes, turning to attack their own kind under the Xenos' command. Hendrix's hand trembled as he activated his Vox. "Command, this is Alpha 7. We've been engaged by unknown Xenos. It saved us from an orc assault." Static. "Then, repeat that, Alpha 7. Did you say it saved you?" Affirmative command. Xenos displayed hostile action against orcs only. No casualties inflicted on Imperial forces. Hendricks swallowed. "But it raised the dead, sir, like a necromancer, made the orcs fight for it." The pause stretched longer this time. "Understood, Alpha 7. Hold position. Do not engage unless directly threatened. We're analyzing the situation." Hendricks lowered the Vox, looking across the crater at his squad. Private Goto had his hand over his mouth, fighting nausea. Vex was still praying. Corporal Chen just stared at where the Xenos had disappeared into the smoke, expression unreadable. "What the hell was that?" whispered Goto. None of them had an answer. The orc assault broke 30 minutes later. Faced with shadow soldiers that wouldn't stay dead, and an enemy that killed with surgical precision, even the Greenskins' legendary aggression faltered. The survivors retreated to their fortifications, dragging wounded and roaring challenges that would never be answered. Jinwoo stood in the center of what had become a killing field, and Tari's fangs held loosely at his sides. Purple energy evaporated the green blood coating the blades, leaving them pristine. Around him, shadow orcs arranged themselves in ranks awaiting orders that would never be questioned. Bellion landed beside him, wings folding. "The Greenskins are routed, my lord. Casualties among Imperial forces appear minimal." "Good." Jinwoo surveyed the battlefield, thousands of orc corpses, the air thick with smoke and the copper smell of blood. "Pull back the shadows. We're not here to conquer." "Shall I raise more soldiers from the fallen?" Jinwoo hesitated, glancing toward the Imperial lines. Even from this distance, he could see soldiers watching him. Fear, suspicion, the kind of looks he'd received in his earliest days as an E-rank hunter before anyone knew his name. "They already think I'm a threat," he thought. "Every corpse I raise only confirms it. No, these are enough for now." 3,000 kilometers above Gorak Prime, aboard the strike cruiser Vigilance, Eternal Inquisitor Malraeth of the Ordo Xenos stood before a crackling hololithic display, hands clasped behind his back. The servo skull hovering at his shoulder projected battlefield footage captured by observational Auspex arrays. He watched the unknown Xenos move through orc formations like wind through grass, watched the dead rise at its command, watched it save Imperial soldiers, then walk away without demanding anything in return. "Analysis," he said quietly. A tech priest's mechanical voice responded. "Subject displays combat capabilities exceeding standard Xenos classifications. Weapons of unknown manufacture, no detectable tech signature. Energy readings are anomalous Lord Inquisitor, neither warp-based nor conventional technology." And the resurrection abilities. Unknown. Resembles Necron reanimation protocols, but organic. Subject appears to transfer some form of energy into corpses, transforming them into servile soldiers. Mechanism unclear. Malreth's jaw tightened. Threat assessment uncertain. Subject avoided Imperial casualties. Hostile action targeted exclusively at Orc forces. However, the tech priest paused. The ability to command the Dead Lord Inquisitor. This is heresy of the highest order, regardless of intent. I'm aware. Malraith studied the frozen image, the Xenos standing alone, purple blades catching what little light penetrated Gorak Prime's ash-choked sky. Behind it, an army of shadows, not chaos. The lack of warp taint confirmed that. Not Necron either. This thing was clearly organic, clearly alive in ways the soulless machines could never be. Not Eldar, not Tau, not anything in Imperial records. An anomaly, the most dangerous kind. Contact Deathwatch Watch Station area, Malraith ordered. Request standby deployment of a kill team. Classification Xenos Horrificus, potential threat level Omega. And if it continues to avoid hostilities with Imperial forces. Malraith's expression didn't change. Then we observe, carefully, and we prepare for the moment it stops being convenient and becomes a threat that must be terminated. He turned away from the display robe, swirling. In this galaxy, there are only two kinds of Xenos, those we've killed and those we haven't killed yet. This one merely falls into the latter category. For now. 17 fortresses down. Jinwoo stood among the wreckage of the latest Orc stronghold, watching his shadow orcs arrange themselves in formation. They should have been silent, obedient, like every other shadow he'd ever commanded. But they weren't. One twitched, its hands clenched and unclenched around a crude axe. Another's head turned tracking movement that wasn't there. A third's mouth opened soundlessly, tusks grinding. Bellion landed beside him, wings folding. My lord. The Orc shadows are different. I noticed. Jinwoo's eyes tracked the nearest shadow Orc. Its violet glow flickered, dimming, brightening, dimming again. They're resisting. As he watched the creature's mouth opened, barely audible, a sound emerged. Wah! The whisper cut off as Jinwoo's will clamped down, but several other shadow Orcs shifted that same incomplete sound, trying to force past dead lips. Jinwoo stepped forward and placed his hand on the nearest shadow Orc's chest. He extended his senses into the construct. The usual connection was there, absolute obedience built into every shadow. But beneath it, threaded through like a parasite, was something else. Energy. Alive. Connecting all the Orcs simultaneously to something vast and distant. It's not from the corpse, Jinwoo murmured. It's from outside. All of them. Bellion nodded. The greenskins possess a collective psychic field. They call it WAG, a gestalt consciousness. Even in death fragments remain. Your shadows absorb the corpses, but not the field. So my control isn't absolute. Jinwoo's jaw tightened. Precisely, my lord. For the first time since becoming the Shadow Monarch, he'd created soldiers he couldn't fully command. The breakdown came without warning. One Shadow Orc, a massive brute that had been a knob, jerked like a puppet with cut strings. Its eyes flared bright, then flickered. It turned toward a regular shadow soldier. Wah! The roar shook dust from the ground. The Shadow Orc charged, axe raised. Egress's blade intercepted mid-swing, the impact sending sparks. The blood-red commander twisted and carved through the construct's torso. It collapsed, dissipating into darkness. But three more Shadow Orcs began to twitch. One turned on another. Tank roared and slammed into the nearest rebel, pinning it down. My lord. Bellion's wings flared. They're losing cohesion. Jinwoo raised one hand. Monarch's domain. The command crashed down like a physical wave. The rebellious Shadow Orcs froze, violet light solidifying in their eyes. Perfect silence. Then from the distant Orc fortifications a shout, Oi, the Shadow Boss is proper scary. The cry was taken up by others Orcs celebrating the fight they'd witnessed. Jinwoo maintained Monarch's domain for 30 seconds, then slowly released it. The Shadow Orcs remained still, but tension thrummed through the connections. The Waeg field pulling, trying to reclaim what it considered its own. Bellion. Can I dismiss them, my lord? If they're unstable, I need to know if I can remove them. Jinwoo focused on the shadow orc tank held pinned. Return to shadow. The construct dissolved, wisps peeling away. Within seconds, only a corpse remained. Jinwoo waited. 3 seconds, 5, 10. The corpse twitched. No. Green flesh began knitting back together. Not healing, transforming. Spores activated, drawn by residual vague energy burrowing into the corpse and filling the spaces Jinwoo's shadow had left. Orc biology wasn't just stubborn, it was distributed. Spores lay dormant until heat blood in the ever-present egg field primed the growth. Unless you burned the mass to ash or smothered it in null, it came back. The orc's eyes snapped open. Pure green, mindless rage. It lunged. Tank's jaws closed around its skull with enough force to shatter bone holding until the body stopped moving entirely. Jinwoo stared at the twice-dead corpse. It came back, without my command. Orcs reproduce through fungal spores, Bellion said quietly. When they die, spores spread, the way Aag field anchors to them. Even when you destroy the shadow, the spores remain. So they resurrect themselves. Jinwoo's voice was flat. For the first time since the double dungeon sung, Jinwoo felt something close to fear. Not of death, of consequences beyond his control. If I leave them here, they'll multiply. If I destroy them, they resurrect from spores. And if I bring them home... A soul flashed through his mind. Jinwoo walking through the portal with shadow orcs at his back. Spores spreading through the city. Gina's smile, unaware of the infection taking root. I can't go back. Not yet. Not until I find a way to end this completely. 3 kilometers away, Commissar Volk watched through magnoculars as the shadow constructs turned on each other. The necromancy is unstable, he reported into the Vox. The orc corpses resist its control. Malrith's voice crackled back. Weakness confirmed. The Xenos is not invincible. Continue observation and catalog all limitations. Jinwoo stood among his shadow orcs, feeling the egg field's constant pull like a rope around his neck. Bellion waited at his side. Baru chittered softly, sensing his master's distress. Igris remained silent, blade ready. I can't destroy them, can't leave them, can't bring them home. The twin daggers in his hands. Antari's fangs, forged from the fangs of Antares, the dragon monarch he'd slain, felt heavier than they should. I'll carry the burden, he decided. Like I always have, until I find another way. He looked up at the ash-choked sky where somewhere beyond his world waited. Wait for me, Jaina. Just wait a little longer. In the space between dimensions, something stirred. Tzeentch, architect of fate, turned one of its infinite eyes toward Gorak Prime. Ah, a shadow that eats shadows. A monarch who cannot command his subjects. How delightfully paradoxical. The whisper spread through the warp, reaching ears that should not have heard. On Gorak Prime, Sung Jinwoo felt a chill. Someone was watching, and they were very interested. The ash never stopped falling on Gorak Prime. Jinwoo stood in a clearing half a kilometer from the last battlefield away from Imperial posts and orc fortifications. Behind him, Bellion waited in silence. The shadow orcs remained under guard by Igris and Tank. He raised one hand. Gate creation. Space trembled. A vertical line of purple light appeared, widening into a shimmering portal. Through the surface, images flickered, blurred, then sharpening. Soul, Daylight, glass towers, cars in orderly traffic, people with coffee unaware of the hell their hunter had fallen into. Home. The portal wavered. He poured more mana, stabilizing it. The gate widened. A specific street near his apartment, a convenience store, an old woman sweeping. His hand moved toward the surface. The gate flickered violently. Soul's image distorted, stretching. For a moment he saw red sky and ash superimposed over his city. He forced more mana. The gate held. 3 seconds. 5. Soul returned crystal clear. Then he heard it. "Why, boys, you see that shiny portal thing?" Jinwoo's head snapped toward the sound. From the orc fortifications, massive shapes emerged. The lead figure stood 12 feet tall in mega armor, one arm ending in a power claw the size of a car. Warboss Grimtooth. Behind him, 5 orc knobs, a big mech, clutching a strange cannon, and a weird boy being dragged forward by chains, eyes blazing toxic green. They rode a crude truck barreling toward the gate at frightening speed. Flanking the truck, a mob of 50 boys sprinted in its wake, meat shield and momentum both, while 2 ramshackle buggies spat smoke and scrap fire at anything that moved. "Get to the portal. I want to see what's on the Uva side." 500 meters, closing fast. Bellion materialized. "My lord, if they reach the gate." "I know." Through the portal, that old woman looked up, sensing something, then went back to sweeping. "If even one gets through." Gina. Walking to school tomorrow, never knowing orc spores were germinating in shadows. 400 meters. "Bellion, Baru, Igris, tank." His voice was cold. "The big one is mine. Handle the rest." 300 meters. Jinwoo's hands tightened on Antara's fangs. 200 meters. "For Gina." He moved. Shadow exchange carried him across the distance. He materialized in the truck's path. Daggers crossed. The warboss's eyes widened, then split into a grin. "Now that's a proper scrap." The big mech fired his shock attack gun. A Gretchen vanished and reappeared near the gate. Seeing Soul mouth opening, Jinwoo was already there. One dagger took its head off. Green blood sprayed. "See, it works." The mech cackled. "Now let me send the big boys." Bellion crashed into the truck from above. Igris engaged the knob's crimson blade, blurring. Baru leaped at the mech. Tank met 3 knobs head-on, fangs screeching against power claws. The knob with a rocket launcher aimed at the gate. "If we can't go through, nobody can." The rocket launched. Jinwoo raised one hand. "Ruler's authority." The rocket stopped midair. His hand twisted. It spun 180 and shot back. The explosion erased the knob, but the warboss never slowed. "Out of me way, I's the biggest!" Grimtooth leaped, power claw extended. He came down like a meteor. Jinwoo ducked both daggers, striking exposed sides. The blades bit into mega armor and held. Grimtooth grinned. "You're fast, but I's tough." The claw swung. Jinwoo used shadow exchange, appearing behind. Both daggers found gaps at the spine. "Gah!" Grimtooth spun, catching Jinwoo's wrist. "Gotcha!" Bellion descended, shadow blade cleaving through helmet and skull, splitting Grimtooth crown to sternum. The warboss collapsed. For a moment, chaos. Baru had torn the mech's throat out. Tank stood over 2 dead knobs. Igris cleaned his blade on a 3rd, but the weird boy stood free, chains broken, eyes blazing green. Psychic energy poured off him in waves. "I seized the Uva world so much, wag!" He raised both hands toward the gate. Jinwoo's eyes widened. "He's going to." Green lightning erupted, striking the gate. The portal shuddered, edges warping, stretching. Soul's image flickered one moment, clear the next, overlaid with green energy. Bellion. But Jinwoo was faster. Shadow exchange put him in front of the weird boy. Both daggers drove into its chest. The weird boy looked down, then up. His grin was manic. "Too late to wag, nose now."
Green light poured from his mouth and wounds. Now we boom! Jinwoo pulled the daggers free, grabbed the weird boy by the throat, and shadow exchanged 20 meters away from the gate. Everyone clear! Bellion's wing swept the area. Baru dove aside. 10 meters, 15, 20 meters from the portal, the weird boy exploded. Pure wag energy released in catastrophic burst. Green fire expanded outward. Jinwoo threw up shadow barriers.
The energy slammed into them. His barriers cracked. He poured more power, layer after layer. The fire broke around him, but some shot past toward the gate. No! The psychic wave hit the portal. The gate's surface bulged, tore at the edges. Sol flickered between his city and Goric Prime. Thousands of microscopic spores lifted from the explosion site, caught by psychic wind drifting toward the gate. 3 meters away, 2. 1. Jinwoo's hand shot out. Close! He poured everything. Every ounce of mana, every fragment of will. The gate fought him. Wag! Energy flooding its structure. The spores were half a meter away. The gate slammed shut with a thunderclap. It wasn't merely closed. Something in the weird boy's psychic detonation had imprinted a whoa resonance onto the very spatial coordinates. The attunement that led his gate creation locked to Earth now snapped toward the planet's dominant energy centroid. On Goric Prime, every recalibration would bend to the strongest nearby beacon. He felt the drain hit, a moment later, a ragged emptiness where mana should have been. Forcing reality's mouth closed had bled him nearly dry. Even if the tuning weren't corrupted, he wouldn't be opening another stable gate in the next few hours. The spores fell to Goric Prime's ground, not Sol. Jinwoo stood breathing hard, staring at empty air. Safe. Gina is safe. But something was wrong. He raised his hand. Gate creation. Nothing happened. He tried again. A flicker, the faintest outline appeared and vanished. The algorithm kept re-seeking the nearest overpowering source. Not home, not Sol. Whatever signal this world screamed the loudest would hijack his pathing. What? Bellion landed beside him. My lord, the gate mechanism. The psychic explosion corrupted it. The WAAG field has anchored to those spatial coordinates. The path is blocked. Jinwoo tried again. This time something formed a small portal, but through it, darkness, stone, underground chamber lit by green light. Of course, the strongest beacon wasn't Earth anymore. It was the cold mathematical hum of a Necron tomb. The gate wasn't broken. It had been retuned against his will. Movement. Mechanical. Ancient. He canceled it immediately. That wasn't Earth. No, my lord. The gate pulls toward the strongest energy source on this planet. And he didn't have the mana to brute force a counter-calibration. Even if he did, the WAG imprint would yank the solution back into Necron gravity wells. They both looked down. Somewhere far below, something was waking. Jinwoo fell to one knee, not from exhaustion, from realization. I can't go home. Bellion placed a hand on his shoulder. Perhaps given time. No. Jinwoo's voice was hollow. The WAG field covers this planet. Millions of orcs over centuries. It won't fade unless... He looked toward the distant fortress. Unless I exterminate them. Every last one. He stood slowly. Antari's fangs found his hands again. I tried to look, just look, make sure Gina was safe. And now I am trapped. Gina's image came sitting at breakfast, smiling, unaware her brother would open a gate and doom himself to stay in hell. I'm sorry, Gina. I'll come back, I swear. But first, I have to burn this world clean. 3 kilometers away, Commissar Volk lowered magnoculars. War boss Grimtooth eliminated. Weird Boy exploded. The Xenos closed its portal after. Attempted reopening. Failed. Multiple attempts, all failures. Energy readings suggest corruption. Malwraith's voice. Trapped. Good. 36 hours sooner if warp lanes clear. Watch Station Ariuk has priority routing. Far beneath Gorak Prime, green eyes flickered to way. Overlord Akenthotep stood motionless as systems reactivated. Dimensional breach detected. Psychic detonation. Organic contamination. Anomaly unknown entity eliminated. War boss class specimen. Around him, tombs opened. Necron warriors stepped out, Gauss rifles humming. Conclusion: planetary cleansing required. All biological life must be eradicated. Warriors mobilize. Green light spread through the complex. Thousands, tens of thousands. Jinwoo sat in abandoned ruins surrounded by his Shadow Legion. Beru's wing was regenerating. Tank's form was diminished. 5 shadow soldiers erased forever. He stared at his hands, hands that had commanded armies, hands that had reset time, hands that couldn't go home. I thought I'd surpassed my limits, but this world, it's different. He looked up at Bellion. How many Necron tombs on this planet? Hundreds, my lord, perhaps thousands. We can't fight them directly. Jinwoo stood. I need another way, a weakness. And the orcs. Still blocking the gate, he walked to the entrance. I'm trapped between 3 enemies, orcs, Necrons, and the Imperium. What are your orders? Jinwoo was quiet. Finally, we survive. We adapt. We find a way. He looked at Antares' fangs. I've overcome impossible odds before. I'll do it again. For Jaina. For home. I'll find a way through this hell, no matter how long it takes. But deep down, Sung Jinwoo wondered if this time he might actually fail. 17 fortresses in 6 days. Each one fell easier than the last. Jinwoo's strike surgical, his Shadow Legion efficient. But the Waag field didn't weaken. If anything, it grew denser, concentrated by the deaths he inflicted. I'm not winning, he realized, standing among the ruins of Fortress 18. I'm just surviving. Around him, shadow orcs twitched restlessly. After every battle, he had to use Monarch's domain to suppress them. The burden never lessened. He was about to give the order to move when the ground shook, not chaotic, deliberate, rhythmic. Pause. The ground cracked, not small fissures, a massive split 10 meters wide tearing through the ruins. Green light poured from below, not fire. Cold, mechanical, ancient. Something climbed out. A metal skeleton. Arms, legs, ribcage, skull, but the proportions wrong, too perfect, engineered with mathematical precision. Green light blazed in empty eye sockets. In its hands, a long rifle barrel humming with contained energy. It moved with mechanical certainty, each step identical. The Necron warrior turned toward Jinwoo and raised its weapon. Behind it, dozens more climbed from the crack, silent except for the clicking of metal joints. Not orcs, not human. What are these? Bellion materialized. My lord, these constructs, I've never seen anything like them. The first warrior fired. The beam didn't burn. It unmade. Where it touched a shadow soldier, matter ceased to exist, not destroyed but deleted from reality. The shadow's torso disappeared. Jinwoo's connection snapped. 5 more warriors fired. 5 more beams. 5 more shadows erased. Scatter! The Legion dispersed, but the Necrons tracked with inhuman precision. Every shot a kill, no wasted ammunition. Beru dove at the nearest warrior. It fired point blank. The beam carved through his left wing. My liege! He crashed, wing dissolving. Tank charged. The Necron fired. Tank's shoulder disappeared, but momentum carried him forward. He slammed into the warrior with enough force to shatter stone. The Necron crumpled. For 1 second, relief. Then green light intensified. The fallen warrior began to glow from within. Its chassis straightened, bent limbs realigned. Shattered joints remit metal flowing like liquid. Within 10 seconds, it stood, undamaged, functional. It raised its rifle and shot Tank in the face. The Shadow Bear's head vanished. His body collapsed. No! Jinwoo used shadow exchange, appearing beside the dissolving corpse. He poured energy trying to stabilize. The warrior turned and fired. He threw up shadow barriers. The beams struck and barriers unraveled layer by layer. He reinforced even as they destroyed. The beams stopped 2 inches from his face. Shadow exchange, behind the warrior. Both Antares' fangs carved through its torso in an X pattern. The warrior fell, bisected. Jinwoo spun. Another warrior decapitation. The head rolled. A third. Igris joined him, blades working in perfect sync. They carved it into pieces, arms, legs, torso scattered. 4 more fell to Bellion's shadow blade. 30 seconds of victory. Then the green light returned. All around, dismembered warriors reassembled. Limbs crawled like mechanical spiders toward original bodies. Severed heads rolled, reconnecting with soft clicks. Bisected torsos sealed with surgical precision. The warrior Jinwoo, decapitated, stood, head reattaching, eyes blazed. The one Igris dismembered pulled itself together piece by piece. Even those Bellion cleaved, both halves crawling together, fusing whole. Jinwoo stood frozen. They're not healing, they're reconstructing, like machines repairing themselves, automatic. The reassembled warriors raised their rifles as one and fired. Jinwoo grabbed a dead orc corpse, not yet animated, and channeled power desperately. Shadow extraction. Darkness flowed. The orc began to rise. The darkness recoiled. Like touching live wire, shadow energy bounced back. The corpse fell lifeless. He tried the nearest Necron warrior, both hands on its chest, forcing shadows to penetrate living metal. Shadow extraction. Darkness pushed deeper. For one moment it seemed to work. Then found nothing. No soul, no life force, no residual energy. The warrior was a perfect void. Shadow extraction needed residue, fear breath, the frayed thread of a soul. The Necron gave him none. His darkness slid off like oil on vitrified glass. There was nothing to claim, nothing to command. Shadows slipped off like water on glass. The warrior's chest glowed green, reanimation activating. Its hand shot up, grabbed Jinwoo's wrist grip like a vice. Antares' fangs severed both arms at the elbows. Jinwoo ripped free, crushed the hand still clamped on his wrist, and kicked the body away. I can't extract them. The realization hit like a blow. For the first time, something I can't claim, can't control. Around him, his shadows were being destroyed, and every Necron simply stood back up. This wasn't battle. It was mathematics, attrition he couldn't win. The ground shook again. Stronger, more deliberate. Something new emerged. It didn't climb. It rose, floating upward with anti-gravity technology. Overlord Akenthotep stood 9 feet tall in ornate armor, etched with hieroglyphs older than human civilization. He carried a staff of light, its head blazing emerald. But his eyes, they blazed with something beyond the warriors. Not life, but consciousness, intelligence, awareness that studied Jinwoo with cold calculation. The Overlord's vocoder activated, anomaly detected, organic entity, energy signature unknown, classification threat. Jinwoo tightened his grip on the daggers. You can talk. Speech is irrelevant. You have disturbed this tomb, brought chaos to a world marked for reclamation. Your existence is an error. The staff blazed. Errors must be corrected. The energy beam erupted pure annihilation. Jinwoo used shadow exchange a fraction before impact. Where he'd stood, Earth simply disappeared. No crater, just absence. He reappeared 20 feet away. Ruler's authority seized debris and hurled it. The Overlord gestured debris disintegrated mid-air. Bellion dove Shadow Blade in two-handed strike. The Overlord caught it one-handed. Shadow and metal met in purple-green explosion. Bellion tumbled backward. Shadow construct, organic base energy augmentation, inferior design, primitive necromancy. He turned to Jinwoo. You command the dead. We perfected this science before your species learned fire. You are a child with tools you do not comprehend. Jinwoo's anger flared cold. I've killed gods. What are you? The Overlord produced a sound like laughter. Gods, organic superstitions. We are not gods, not alive. We are eternal, inevitable. We are Necrons. Jinwoo moved. Shadow exchange passed the guard. Both daggers aimed at armor joints. They struck deep purple energy, carving through living metal with power that had ended Antares. The Overlord staggered. Jinwoo didn't stop. 20 strikes, 30. Every gap, every weakness. Living metal cracked. The Overlord's shoulder came apart in emerald sparks. This is it. The severed shoulder reattached itself. Instantly, living metal flowing damaged sections, reforming as if never broken. Reanimation protocols. Molecular reconstruction at quantum level. You cannot damage what constantly repairs itself. He swung the staff horizontally. Jinwoo blocked with crossed daggers. The impact sent him skidding, arms numb. The Overlord moved faster than metal should. Staff came down from above. Jinwoo rolled aside weapon cratering ground. A kick caught his ribs. Something cracked. Pain sharp, immediate. He flew backward, hit debris, rolled to his feet as the staff aimed at his face. You fight well for organic, but you fight to kill. We do not die. The staff fired. Bellion appeared between them, wings spread, taking the beam. His edges dissolved where it touched. My lord now. Monarch's domain, full power, unrestricted. The weight of Shadow Monarch pressing down, plus 50% stats. The air became thick, heavy. Dominion crushed will and fear currency the dead that think did not carry. Against synthetic minds with no souls. The domain found no purchase. The Overlord stood perfectly upright. Psychic suppression detected. Ineffective against synthetic consciousness. We possess no souls to dominate. You fight with weapons meant for the living. We are your antithesis. Jinwoo understood. Everything his power relied on, claiming souls commanding through dominance, meant nothing. Necrons had no souls, no life, no weakness he could exploit. They were the one thing his power couldn't touch. Bellion, Beru Igris, fall back. My lord, that's an order. The Shadow Legion retreated with military precision. Bellion provided cover. Igris dragged injured Beru. Remaining shadows formed rear guard. Jinwoo backed away step by step, daggers ready. The Overlord watched, made no move to pursue. Behind him, 50 warriors stood in perfect formation. Fleeing is logical. You cannot defeat what cannot die, cannot claim what possesses no soul, cannot win attrition against immortality. The staff raised, light washing over ruins. This world is ours. Your presence is temporary, your extinction inevitable. You are merely delaying conclusion. Jinwoo reached the edge where Bellion waited. He looked back once. Necrons stood like statues in green light, perfectly still, perfectly patient. They had all the time in the universe. And for the first time since the double dungeon, Sung Jinwoo felt something close to fear. Not of death, of inadequacy. I came to exterminate orcs, to go home to Gina, but I've found an enemy I can't extract. Can't kill, can't control. He looked at Antares' fangs, weapons that killed a monarch, that ended gods. Something outside my power entirely. He turned and walked into darkness, Legion following. Behind green light pulsed, tomb complexes activating, warriors assembling by thousands, overlords waking from 60 million years' sleep. High above, Inquisitor Malrith reviewed footage. The Xenos engaged unknown hostiles, possibly Necrons. The tech priest's voice crackled. Necrons. Malrith's jaw tightened. On Gorak Prime. Combat duration 17 minutes. Outcome: the target withdrew. Assessment: defeated. Defeated? Malrith leaned forward. The Xenos that eliminated Grimtuff was defeated. Affirmative. Its necromantic abilities appeared ineffective against Necron constructs. Then it has a weakness. Malraith smiled coldly. Deploy Death Watch immediately. The Xenos is wounded and surrounded. Jinwoo sat in abandoned bunker ruins. Baru's wing slowly regenerated. Tank's head reformed but weaker. 5 shadow soldiers erased forever. He stared at his hands. Hands that commanded armies. Reset time. Hands that couldn't touch Necrons. I thought I'd surpassed limits. But this world, it's different. And I'm not invincible here. How many tombs? He asked Bellion. Hundreds, my lord. Perhaps thousands. We can't fight them directly. I need another way. And the orcs. Still blocking the gate, he stood. I'm trapped between 3 enemies. Orcs, Necrons, Imperium. Orders. Long silence. Finally, we survive. We adapt. We find a way. He gripped the daggers. I've overcome impossible odds before. For Gina. For home. I'll find a way, no matter how long. But deep down he wondered if this time he might fail. 12 hours after the Necron tomb, Jinwoo sat in abandoned Imperial ruins, one hand pressed against his ribs. The pain was dull but constant. Something had cracked the Overlord's kick. Even his enhanced physiology needed time. He'd wrapped his torso with strips from a dead guardsman's uniform fabric dark with dried blood. First real injury since arriving. Around him, the Shadow Legion stood watch, Bellion at the entrance, Egress near the rear. Tank in the corner formed translucent where the Gauss beam had erased his head, regenerated but weakened. And Baru. The Ant King sat apart, left wing incomplete, shadow reconstruction slower than biological healing. My lord, Baru said quietly, I am diminished. I cannot serve as I should. You're healing. That's enough. Bellion's voice cut through. My lord, multiple high-velocity objects inbound. Astartes drop pods. Jinwoo was on his feet. How many? 5 signatures. Through the entrance, he saw them 5 fire streaks tearing through the sky. Sonic booms shook the bunker. The pod struck Earth half a kilometer away with impacts like artillery. For 5 seconds, nothing. Then doors blew outward with synchronized detonations. 5 figures emerged, each 8 feet tall, encased in ceramite power armor. They moved with impossible grace despite armor weighing as much as vehicles. Their colors marked different chapters: blue and gold gray and red, black and bone. Death Watch, elite Xenos hunters from the finest Space Marine chapters. The lead figure, Ultramarines blue with silver pauldron, raised one hand. His Vox-amplified voice rang cold. Target acquired. Unknown Xenos entity. Kill Team Artemis. Commence assessment protocol. Jinwoo stepped out, Antares' fangs materializing. Bellion and Egress flanked him. Tank growled. More humans, but different, stronger, purpose-built for war. The Ultramarines officer watch captain by his honors took 3 steps forward, right hand resting on a power sword hilt bolter within easy reach. Unknown entity, identify yourself and state your purpose. I don't answer to you. A growl from another Astarte's gray armor with wolf pelts, his hand tightened on a frost axe. Insolent Xenos. Brother Alaric, stand down. The captain's voice cut like a blade. The space wolf subsided, coiled like a spring. You have been observed, raising the dead, attempting dimensional breach. The Ordo Xenos has classified you Xenos Horrificus, threat assessment extremis. Red eye lenses fixed on Jinwoo. You will answer for crimes against the Imperium. I'm not your enemy, I'm trying to go home. Home. Another Astarte spoke red and gold blood angels. The creature speaks of attachment, almost human. It is not human. A third voice, Dark Angels Green. It practices necromancy, the worst heresy. Well, your abilities violate natural order, the captain said. You defile the fallen. This warrants termination. Jinwoo's jaw tightened. Your orcs invaded my world. I followed to stop them at the source. A noble sentiment. If true, the Blood Angel said, truth is irrelevant. You command shadows, wield unknown weapons, survived Necrons impossible for organics. The captain's hand moved to his bolter. You are an anomaly. The Imperium does not tolerate anomalies. So you're here to kill me, to assess. If you prove useful, perhaps arrangement. If threat, he let it hang. They're stalling, Bellin whispered through their connection. Brother Kale Black Armor with camo cloak is flanking. Brother Thaddeus's plasma gun is charging. Professional, here to kill. The conversation is reconnaissance. Before Jinwoo could respond, whack! The orc warband came over the ridge at least 100 strong. At their head, a war boss with a power claw pointed at the gathering.
Humies in fancy armor and a shadow get best day Eva.
The captain's head turned, voice utterly calm. Orc assault inbound. Kill team combat formation. 4 Astartes moved into defensive semicircle, weapons raised. Jinwoo glanced at Deathwatch, then charging orcs. Deal with them first, or we can keep talking while they kill us. 3 seconds of silence. Temporary truce. Do not engage Imperial forces. Understood. Understood. Kill Team Artemis. Weapons free. Brother Thaddeus fired first. Plasma gun discharged blue-white sphere, vaporizing 3 orcs instantly, continuing through ranks, immolating 5 total. Target-rich environment. Ammunition expenditure optimal. Brother Alaric charged with a roar. Frost axe cleaved an orc boy's skull to pelvis, freezing flesh solid. He kicked the corpse aside and swung again.
For us and the Allfather!
Brother Malachim activated jump pack, blue flame arc. He landed behind Orcline's chainsword, screaming. The blade tore through armor and flesh. The Emperor protects. From ruins, Brother Kael's stalker bolter fired metronomic precision. Each shot a headshot, each headshot a kill. Silent, patient. Watch Captain Lucerne move through melee, conducting symphony. Power sword carved through orc armor with contemptuous ease, disrupting matter molecularly. But more he was directing. Brother Thaddeus suppressing fire left flank. Brother Alaric drive them toward Malachim. Brother Kael target the mech, kill it now. Terrifying efficiency, no wasted motion, precision instrument for Xenos extermination, but Jinwoo was something else. Shadow exchange carried him 50 meters. He materialized in an orc mob center, Antari's fangs already moving. Purple light carved through green flesh. 4 dead before they knew. 6, 8. An orc knob swung power claw. Jinwoo ducked, drove 1 dagger up through its jaw, used the corpse as springboard for 3 more behind. Bellion descended from above. Wings spread shadow blades sweeping horizontally, bisecting 2 orcs. He landed beside Jinwoo, back-to-back, perfect synchronization. Igris coalesced from darkness, red blade finding armor gaps with surgical precision. Silent killing. Tank charged like a battering ram, scattering orcs. Jaws closed around a torso, crushing, tossing aside. 5 minutes of pure chaos. The last orc took a stalker bolt to the skull and collapsed. Silence. Cooling plasma. Idling jump pack. Brother Alaric approached, frost axe on shoulder. Blood dripped from rent in his armor. "You fight well, for a Xenos." Jinwoo nodded once. "You too, for a human in a tin can." Alaric's speaker produced something like a laugh. "Ha! The creature has spirit." "The creature also saved your life, Brother Alaric," Watch Captain Lucerne said, approaching with active power sword. "Twice. I was monitoring." Alaric stiffened. "I did not require—" "You were surrounded by 6 orcs. The Xenos eliminated 3 from behind. Without intervention, you would have been overwhelmed." Lucerne's helmet turned to Jinwoo. Why what? Why save him? "We came to assess termination, yet you preserved Imperial life at considerable risk." "Because he didn't deserve to die fighting orcs while you argued about whether I'm a threat." "Your allies stood the same distance," Brother Thaddeus said, plasma gun powered down. "You could have let them do our work." "I don't let people die because it's convenient." Brother Malakian tilted his helmet. "Fascinating. The Xenos possesses ethics, almost human." "It is not human," Thaddeus snapped. "Do not anthropomorphize." "Peace, brothers." Lucerne raised a hand. "Brother Kael, report." The Raven Guard's voice came quiet but urgent. "Multiple Necron energy signatures, 800 meters north, 3 dozen warriors. Recommend immediate withdrawal." Lucerne's jaw tightened. Necrons. He looked at Jinwoo, his kill team, then north, where green light glowed beneath Earth. "We withdraw. Now." "What?" Alaric's voice was incredulous. "We have the Xenos." "We can die engaging both simultaneously, or withdraw, reassess, return with support. We are Death Watch, not Lamenters. We choose battles." He turned to Jinwoo. "This is not mercy. This is postponement. You demonstrated, unexpected qualities, tactical acumen, combat prowess, and something resembling honor. These complicate assessment." He maglocked his sword. "Death Watch will return, with full resources to determine your fate, whether termination or something else." Malakim stepped forward, helmet dipping. "You fight with grace, Shadow King, but grace will not save you from the Emperor's justice." "And you are a threat," Thaddeus added coldly. "Move out. Kael point. Thaddeus rear guard." Death Watch withdrew with precision, not running but moving with purpose. Within 30 seconds, they disappeared. All except Kael, who remained 5 seconds scope trained on Jinwoo's center mass. Then he vanished like smoke. Jinwoo stood among corpses, breathing hard ribs, screaming. "They could have killed me, maybe, all at once with orcs as distraction. But they hadn't. Withdrew, assessed, decided he was worth more alive for now." "They'll be back," Bellion said. "Next time with more. Appropriate support means Grey Knights." "I know." Jinwoo pressed his ribs, felt sharp pain. "How's Baru?" unstable. The Wag field surged during combat. He felt it pull, but held. Good. Jinwoo looked at twitching shadow orcs, and them growing unstable. Each battle worsens. My lord, we cannot maintain much longer. We need another option. Another way without creating problems. He looked north. Necron glows stronger. And figure out Necrons. Can't extract, can't kill, can't scratch without regeneration. 3 enemies. Orcs, Necrons, Imperium. Trapped between all, unable to go home, unable to win. I don't know what to do next. Orbit. Strike Cruiser Vigilance Eternal. Malrath reviewed combat footage. Target demonstrated enhanced capabilities. Spatial displacement without chaos taint. Necromantic animation unstable. Preserved Imperial life, Brother Alaric twice. He saved an Astartes. Malrath leaned forward. Why? Unknown. Possibly deception. Possibly genuine ethics. Possibly tactical calculation. Weaknesses. Confirmed physical injury from Necrons. Inability to neutralize Necron constructs. Unstable control over orc shadows vulnerable to Wage interference. Malrath stood. Contact Watch Station Ariok. Request Grey Knights. Purifier Squad. If this Xenos is outside conventional matrix, we need abnormal warfare specialists. Deep in warp-tainted ruins, a cultist knelt before makeshift altar. 17 cultists traced Tzench's symbol in blood. The architect has shown us a Shadow King, a warrior trapped between wars. From the altar, a voice not sound, but thought, yes, he struggles beautifully, fighting orcs, fighting corpse machines, fighting the corpse emperor's dogs. When desperate enough, I offer what he seeks most. A way home. Cultist smiled eyes reflecting impossible colors. What must we do? Nothing yet. Let him fight. Let him weaken. Let him despair. Then we show him the door. The door that leads not home, but to me. Laughter echoed shattering glass and screaming birds. Tzench's servants took note. The game entered new phase. The piece called Shadow King was perfectly positioned. Jinwoo sat surrounded by Bellion Baru Igris tank, most loyal, strongest, but not enough. Orcs I can fight, but Wag corrupts shadows. Necrons I can wound, but can't kill. Imperium sends elite testing waiting for weakness. He closed his eyes. China, I thought I'd be home by now. Thought I could handle this like I handled monarchs. But this world's different, rules different, and I'm not winning. Outside, ash fell. Necrons woke. Orcs bred. Imperium watched. Deep in warp something smiled. Sung Jinwoo was trapped, running out of options. 31 fortresses burned. Jinwoo stood in shadows 200 meters away, watching flames consume orc barracks and ammunition. No grand battle, just systematic destruction. Explosives in the fuel depot detonated remotely. Efficient, quiet, futile. 12 more in 5 days, and the field hasn't weakened, if anything. He could feel its psychic pressure like humidity before a storm. Every orc kill didn't diminish the collective consciousness. It concentrated it. Survivors grew stronger, more unified. I've been doing this wrong, Bellion materialized beside him. My lord, the orcs rally. Engage. No, let them handle their fires. We're not here to fight anymore. Then what? Survive and think. Brute force isn't working. Behind them, orc war cries faded into ashfall. North green light pulsed from tombs. 17 separate sources now. East, Imperial surveillance satellites always watching. West, something whispered, fingers trailing across his neck. a voice too quiet to hear but impossible to ignore. 4 enemies. Can't beat any alone. For the first time since the double dungeon sung, Jinwoo was genuinely out of his depth. High Orbit, Strike Cruiser Vigilance Eternal, War Room Gamma, Inquisitor Malrith stood at the strategic table, Augmetic Eye projecting Gorak Prime into the air. Red markers, Orc Strongholds. Green dots, Necron Tombs. 1 purple icon moving in unpredictable patterns. Around the table, Watch Captain Lucerne in gleaming Deathwatch armor. Lord Militant General Krashen in dress uniform, heavy with medals. Tech Priest Dominus Zeta 7 Mechadendrites twitching. On the view screen, Brother Coditure Hyperion of the Grey Knight's Terminator armor, etched with purity seals. Malraeth activated recordings. Combat footage from 6 days played accelerated Jinwoo destroying fortresses from shadows. Status report. Brother Codicier. Hyperion's voice emerged like thunder. The prognosticars completed divinations. Results are troubling. The entity registers as neither chaos-tainted nor sanctified, null-aligned power without corruption, commanding death without damnation. Impossible. Yet here we are. Krashen snorted. I don't need divination. It raises the dead. That's heresy. Deploy 3 regiments and annihilate it. Your soldiers would die, General, Lucerne said flatly. Its combat capabilities exceed anything short of Primarch level. Conventional forces insufficient. Then orbital bombardment. Exterminatus. Malraeth raised one hand. General, consider all variables. He gestured. New footage, Jinwoo saving Alaric. The target saved an Astartes twice, without prompting. This suggests reason, possibly moral framework. Irrelevant, Krashen growled. Still Xenos, still threat. A threat currently eliminating orcs and avoiding Imperial conflict, Lucerne countered. Enemy of our enemy is tolerable variable? And Necrons, Hyperion's voice cut through. Tech Priest analysis. Necron activation rate increased 47.3% last week. Projections full planetary awakening 3 to 4 months, when complete Gorak Prime becomes uninhabitable for organics. The map zoomed out. Green dots spread like infection. The target engaged Overlord-class construct 6 days ago. Combat duration 17 minutes. Outcome tactical retreat but survived. Note, no organic survived. Overlord combat longer than 4 minutes in Imperial history. Silence. Hyperion spoke. The prognosticars spoke of shadow that holds back unliving tide. We are looking at their prophecy. Krashen's face reddened. You suggest alliance with this abomination. I suggest we do not squander potential asset. It fights our enemies, shows restraint, and prognosticars foresee possible future where it becomes crucial to preventing something worse. Worse than Necrons. Divinations were unclear, but yes, something worse. Malraeth studied Jinwoo's frozen image, then decided. We extend offer, non-aggression, possibly limited cooperation. If it continues combating Xenos without endangering Imperial assets, we tolerate presence. And if it refuses, Lucerne asked, exterminatus protocols. Cold voice. This world already lost to orcs. Necrons will finish. 1 more Xenos changes nothing. He turned to communications. Prepare servo skull with coordinates. Neutral ground. I'll extend invitation personally. Krashen shook his head but said nothing. Lucerne nodded. Zeta 7 interfaced with arrays. Brother Codicier Hyperion watched through HoloLink with eyes seeing beyond material. The shadow stands at crossroads. and chaos watches from dark corners, waiting to see which path he chooses. Deep beneath western Badlands, 17 figures knelt in perfect synchronization. The cult chamber stank of incense and decay. At center, altar of human bones in geometries that hurt to perceive. Led cultist, once Commissar Verne, raised arms. Eyes reflected 9 colors, pupils dilating in impossible patterns. The great architect speaks, the Shadow King wavers, seeks paths, finds walls. Others responded in unison, voices overlapping into harmonics that shouldn't exist. The architect sees all paths, knows all futures, weaves grand design. From altar center, dead psyche arranged in Cincha's symbol, something stirred. Thought made manifest, sliding into minds like oil. Yes. 1,000 voices laughing, screaming, whispering, singing. Shadow King struggles beautifully, fighting orcs he cannot exterminate, fighting machines he cannot kill, fighting corpse emperor's servants who see him as threat. All doors closed, all paths blocked, except mine. Verne smiled. Blood trickled from nose, ears, eye corners. What is your will? Patience. Let him exhaust against unliving. Let Imperium make pitiful offer, alliance, cooperation, whatever lies. He will refuse or accept and be betrayed. Matters not. When most desperate, when hope is memory and memory pain. Cultists gasped as their god's attention focused, reality bending. You show him gate of whispers. Verna's smile widened. The ancient gate, the Eldar sealed. The one leading home, or so he'll believe. Will lead home, eventually, after price paid, after bargain struck, after he becomes, useful. Shadow King will come, not because I force, not because I deceive, but because I offer only thing he wants, escape. Laughter echoed not sound but memory of sound, reversed until it carved into minds. Prepare ritual, clear path. When moment comes, invite him. Cultists bowed as one spine's bending at impossible angles. Rising 17 faces wore identical ecstatic madness. The great game entered new phase. Peace called Shadow King, perfectly positioned for next move. 5 kilometers underground, Overlord Akenthotep stood before hololithic Goric Prime, utterly still, no breathing, no fidgeting. Hadn't moved 3 hours. Would not move 3 more if necessary. Patience learned over 60 million years. Around him, 200 Necron warriors in perfect formation. More awakened daily, soon entire dynasty would walk. Status report, Cryptek approached. Orc population declining 3.7% weekly, cause elimination by anomaly. The organic entity. Affirmative, displays adaptive tactics, efficiency improving. Akenthotep's lenses brightened fractionally. It learns, fascinating. Recommendation, none. Anomaly eliminates bioforms interfering with reactivation. Actions serve our purposes. Cryptek tilted head. When bioforms eliminated, anomaly remains. Then we deal with anomaly. Akenthotep gestured. Projections zoomed on Jinwoo's location. Cannot kill us, cannot claim us, cannot stop awakening. Persistent, but persistence meaningless against inevitability. He turned from projection. 60 million years taught patience. Anomaly has decades, perhaps centuries. We have eternity. When every tomb awakened, full dynasty ready, we reclaim this world. Orcs exterminated, Imperium driven off, and anomaly. Pause. If Necron smiled, Akenthotep would. Anomaly will be studied, analyzed, cataloged, then archived. Like everything else thinking itself significant. More warriors activated, green light spread, ancient mechanisms never truly died. Dynasty stirred. Surface dwellers didn't know how little time remained. Jinwoo sat on collapsed watchtower highest point, giving clear sightlines. North Necron tombs, green glow visible through ash. 17 light sources, hundreds per tomb. Thousands South Orc fortresses reduced but not broken. Distant drums, bass rumble of wake. They rebuilt, regrouped, grew stronger. East Imperial surveillance always recording, judging useful or dangerous. West whispers, sensation of being called, something waiting with infinite patience. 4 enemies, can't beat any. Bellion stood behind. Baru recovered, wing translucent. Igris and Tank rested below. Shadow Legion, once seeming infinite, now felt small, inadequate. How long since Soul? Since I promised Jaina I'd be back by dinner. 2 weeks. 3 lost count. Time measured in battles, fortresses destroyed, wounds healing too slow. He closed eyes, let himself remember. Jaina's smile that morning, math homework complaints, mom humming breakfast smell. I'll be back by dinner. You always say that. One day you'll mean it. I mean it this time. But he hadn't. Followed orcs thinking it'd be quick. Thinking I was invincible. After Antares, after resetting time, after becoming Shadow Monarch. Thought nothing could stop me. He looked at Antares' fangs. Weapons killing a monarch. Carving through Earth's strongest enemies. Here just knives. Deadly knives, but not enough. Been approaching wrong from start. Came thinking I could solo like dungeons, kill everything. But this isn't dungeon, it's war. And wars, history classes, military documentaries. Wars won by smartest strategists, by alliances, diplomacy. By using every tool, even ones you don't want. Bellion, my lord. If I asked you to trust the Imperium humans hunting us, what would you say? Long silence. You must have very good reason, my lord. If that reason was only way to survive, then I'd trust your judgment. As always. Jinwoo nodded slowly. Good, because mechanical buzzing cut through air. Servo skull. Not attack, just hovering 3 meters away. Optical sensors focused. Vox grill activated. Unknown entity. Inquisitor Malwraith Ordo Xenos. You've been under observation 3 weeks. Actions noted and analyzed. Jinwoo said nothing. Grip on daggers didn't loosen. You fight orcs, fight necrons, but haven't attacked Imperial forces except self-defense. Suggests rationality, possibly common cause. Static crackled. Imperium doesn't negotiate with Xenos as policy, but we are pragmatic. In certain circumstances, temporary alliances serve the Emperor's will. If you wish to discuss possibilities, non-aggression, intelligence sharing, coordinated operations, present yourself at coordinates in this data slate. Servo Skull's cargo bay opened. Small metal tablet dropped at Jinwoo's feet. 72 hours. Come alone. Armed if you wish. We know you won't trust enough for defenseless, but come in good faith. Or continue as you are, fighting alone, dying slowly, trapped on world wanting you dead. Choice is yours. Servo Skull dimmed and flew back toward Imperial territory. Jinwoo picked up data slate. Coordinates glowed neutral zone between Orc and Necron territory, far from fortifications. A trap, obviously. But his mind part surviving double dungeon outmaneuvering Monarch saw something else. Or opportunity. North Necron lights, South Orc fires, West whispers. 3 weeks fighting alone, gotten nowhere. Maybe time to try something different. View pulled back, from Jinwoo on tower holding data slate, to Shadow Legion below loyal but insufficient, to forefronts surrounding like closing jaws, North Necron tombs, Akenthotep watching through hijacked surveillance. Anomaly considers alliance, irrelevant, we have time. South largest orc fortress, new war boss, big boss Scarjaw, larger than Grimtooth bellowing. The shadow gets been quiet time, to crump we march at dawn. East vigilance, eternal Malwraith watching. Will he come? Lucerne studying body language? If intelligent, yes, no other options. West cult chamber. Vern smiling as Tsench filled his skull. He considers corpse emperor's offer, debates, wavers. Perfect, desperate make best converts. Wait, watch. When realizes even Imperium cannot save, we show true door home. View pulled further, entire planet spinning in void, world of ash and war. 4 armies circling single purple light point, sung Jinwoo, Shadow Monarch, E-rank becoming legend, alone, trapped, running out of time and options, but not beaten. Not yet. Jinwoo looked up at ash-choked sky, somewhere beyond Earth, Seoul, home, Jaina worrying, Mom pretending not concerned. Promised I'd come back, and I will, no matter what it takes. Data slate in left hand and Tari's fangs in right. 2 paths, 2 gambles. Trust Imperium, or keep fighting alone. 72 hours to decide. He walked back into bunker where Bellion waited. My lord orders. Long silence. Finally we prepare. For meeting, for treachery, for whatever comes. He placed data slate on rusted table and stared. Because one way or another, I'm going home. Grip tightened on daggers until knuckles went white. Even if I have to burn this entire world to get there. Fade to black. Text appears. The Shadow Monarch stands between 4 wars. Survival requires allies. But every alliance has a price. And on Gorak Prime, someone always collects.